I'd like to bring the meeting to order. It's a continuation of the meeting of last week on John and Linda Rasak's continuation. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This continuation is to do the variances on the what was before us last week. And I'll read the variances and...
Okay. And it was a use variance,
Yeah.
reference section 2.08B1 of the Newmarket zoning ordinance, and the applicant was requesting a variance to permit changing a single-family home to a duplex. The lot is located at 29 Ash Swamp Road, tax map R3, lot 17-1, in the R1 zone.
And the first variance, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
It's a statement of fact that granting the variance for the duplex will not be contrary to the public interest, as the proposed duplex in its setting will preserve the existing neighborhood and provide privacy, quality of living, thoughtful development while creating a long-term tax base.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain.
Abstain, he wasn't here. On the second one, the special conditions exist such that literal enforcement of the ordinance results in unnecessary hardship. We're using the simplex analysis, and that's a use variance. And there's three parts. A1, the zoning restriction is applied interferes with the landowner's reasonable use of the property, considering the unique setting of the property in its environment.
It's a statement of fact that there are unique conditions existing relating to the property located at 29 Ash Swamp Road. The property is in the R1 zone, bordered on the north by the Rockingham Ballroom LLC, to the east by the Rockingham Junction LLC, which are in the B1 zone, and to the south by Land in Newfields, New Hampshire, and to the west a wooded area.
We have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
A2, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the zoning ordinance and the specific restrictions on the property.
It's a statement of fact that the applicant has shown, due to the limitations and restrictions of the property in the R1 zone, the maximum square footage of 800 feet for a special exception that was not feasible to meet. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than a use variance.
We need a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
A3, the variance would not injure the public or private rights of others.
It's a statement of fact that testimony from an abutter that his private rights would not be injured, and in fact he stated that by allowing this variance to be adopted would better serve the rights of all.
A second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Number 3, the variance is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance.
It's a statement of fact that the purpose of this district shall be to provide for the protection of the rural, unspoiled character and open spaces of the outlying areas of the town. As this variance for duplex will not require any expansion and remain in the existing footprint of the home, the variance is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance.
A second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Number 4, substantial justice will be done.
It's a statement of fact that any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. By granting of the variance, the property will be better utilized, and both the applicant and family can more enjoy the life of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and the town as a whole will be better served, thereby substantial justice is done.
A second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Number 5, the value of surrounding properties will not be diminished.
It's a statement of fact that the property currently has an abutting golf course, ballroom for public functions, abandoned railroad station in the process of being redeveloped, single-family home with the beauty shop that that the surrounding properties would not be diminished.
A second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You can read the finding of facts.
Finding of fact, having met the 5 prongs of the criterion, I will make a motion to grant the applicant's request for a variance from section 2.08B1 in the table of permitted uses of the Newmarket zoning ordinance to permit the duplex located at 29 Ash Swamp with the following conditions. 1, it shall be the responsibility of the applicant to pay the water tie-in fee. 2, to address impact fees that may be applicable. 3, to have the town of Newmarket tax assessor reassess the property and update the tax card. 4, that this duplex will be occupied for its intended use only for the living quarters of Mr. John Razek's mother-in-law. 5, that this variance shall remain in effect for as long as the applicant shall require its intended use as requested in the application, that to help a family member live out her life.
We have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Your variance has been granted. Now, there's a 30-day period if anybody wants to challenge our decisions. So after 30 days, if nothing happens, then it's all free and clear. But there is a 30-day window
Okay.
if somebody wants to put up a challenge. And if you want a copy of the variances, I can give you what we got here.
Yeah.
And you're all set.
Great.
And it has the conditions on there too, John,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
Everything's
so
there.
as far as the water time, how do I go about,
You have to discuss that with the Public Works Department.
okay? Does
Yeah.
that have to be done within this 30-day period, or should I
No,
wait until
well,
after?
you
Because someone-
might want to carry it on for 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't foresee anything coming ahead,
Okay,
just to be sure.
Okay.
But there is a 30-day window.
I would
Right.
get
Yeah.
everything started.
Yeah, getting
Okay.
going.
You could
Because you
pick-
might have to go, I don't know if you've got to go before the planning board or not now, as far as impact fees go, I don't know.
all right.
But you might want to check with the Sue at the office,
Okay,
and she'll...
Technically, though, the permit fee's not due until the variance is in force, right? So he wouldn't want to pay.
Right, but there's a 30-day window. Well, we've granted it, but as long as there's no...
And the only
nobody
reason he would,
appealing it.
the only reason he would be going before a planning board is if he was asking for a waiver of the impact
Yeah,
fees, which
right.
I don't think you qualify for, but if you want to do that, you could, but.
But whatever.
okay.
But just check with Dan on that.
We decided last time he wasn't going to have to pay impact fees. We didn't know.
No, he has to pay. We can.
Okay.
So you're all set, dear.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Good night.
Now, the second part here, we haven't approved them minutes yet. But has everybody got them?
Which one's Rich?
Oh, I think it was from the July 27th. Pretty sure.
July 13th. I don't know why I got 2 copies of
What was it, July?
minutes for the 13th.
Oh, July 13th. I think it was the July 13th.
I don't have the 27th.
Huh?
I don't have the 27th.
I don't have the.
I never got the
It was
27th
the
either.
13th, July 13th.
You don't have either?
July 13th
Oh, it was
is
the-
the one we
okay.
want.
Okay.
You got the July
do.
13th? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
The only questions I had on that was on page, I think it's page 3. When we were discussing the continuation of this at the time, it says here, he suggested the board can approve the special exception with conditions, or the board could hold a meeting in 2 weeks. And I think we had discussed that we could continue the meeting in 2 weeks, and the full board agreed to that. Now, the exact language, I'm not 100% sure, but I know it could be picked up on the tape. I did watch it on
Where are you?
TV.
Which paragraph?
Right down the bottom of page 3,
Okay, the
the
bottom.
very bottom. That when,
The board can approve this.
we had made, I
Right.
had mentioned to
Right, right.
continue the meeting, and the board agreed
Do you
to
have
it,
a
but I
copy?
guess the problem is it didn't go
Yeah.
through, is we never made a
That's next
formal motion,
Okay.
from what I understand. But that's the only thing I saw in the whole part of that July 13th meeting. Other than that, with that change, I'd be all set. And as far as the other one, I didn't see anything there.
And I mean, you said on page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth paragraph down, that you stated that we're going to put it on the agenda for July 27th. I mean, it was mentioned more
That's
than
right,
once.
but then it got canceled because Sue had canceled it because of the way this was written up. And we didn't make a motion to continue it, what we were supposed to do. And that's why that was like that.
Okay,
But that's
all right.
and the
So to make
second,
it legal, what,
to make it legal, we've got to make a formal motion. If we're going to continue like we did last week.
Yeah.
We continue until tonight.
but to make these minutes approvable, what do we need to
Well,
change?
they are approvable, that's
They're
what happened.
approvable.
That's
I
what
want to
happened.
approve them just with that one change that I saw.
Okay.
And I didn't see any other in there. I don't know if anybody else had any changes to it. I didn't have any. I went through the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you have any questions on that, Mr. Carr?
Yep.
None? We got a motion to approve the minutes then of July 13 with the one change.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any new business or old business?
I have a question. If there is an ordinance on the books of just a very blatant ordinance regarding something very simple like signs, and basically, all our ordinances have to be adhered to. Am I correct?
Yeah?
If they're not adhered to, it's up to the code enforcement officer to
To
go
enforce them.
to enforce them.
And if there's any discrepancy, they can come in front of us for relief.
They can come to us for relief,
But the ordinance stands on its
or
merit.
they could go to planning board or to council, but in the interim, whatever's on the book stands, it's legal. And does anyone have the jurisdiction to have the code enforcement officer not be able to enforce the existing ordinance? Is that against the law
I think it's his job to enforce the ordinance that's
as written?
as written,
And nobody can interfere with that?
as far as I can see.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if there is a question about that, they can hopefully appeal to the ZBA for
Mm-hmm.
a change or a variance, just like we did tonight with this gentleman.
Right.
And we either approve it or deny it,
Exactly.
and it's up to the code enforcement officer to do his duty and enforce it.
And it's enforceable, from what I understand, it's enforceable, but if the person is taking steps to address it, like say they have an application before us, then in that interim, they're allowed to continue that illegal use or not,
Not that I know of. An illegal use is an illegal use,
period.
period.
And even though they're in the midst of making an application to planning board or talk to the council, notification has been sent out. If they're illegal, whatever they're doing stops until it's rectified legally, either by the zoning board or the planning board.
By the zoning, by the code enforcement officer.
Right.
That's his job, to enforce the ordinance that's in power in the town.
Mhm. Are there any specific RSAs addressing that?
No, I don't.
I know
which
it
one would
addresses
be.
how you make them and how you amend them. And it even, I think certain areas it states that the interpretation of the ordinance is solely in the code enforcement officer.
When you
how
get
he
into the signs,
interprets it.
we've got the size of the signs and how
That-
big it can be.
exactly,
But
that's-
there is signs in this town that are grandfathered.
Right, but the only way anything can be grandfathered is if it was approved prior to, and then in the interim, it was changed. Just because you've had a use for so long, doesn't mean it's grandfathered. If at the time the use started, there was an ordinance process that you had to go through, and you just started it, and it happens to have been going on for, say, 20 or 30 years, it's not grandfathered. It's grandfathered only when there was an ordinance in place, you followed procedure, you got approval, and in the interim, the area where your business now is has become non-conforming. They discontinued the use, it's not allowed anymore. So now you have a grandfathered non-conforming, as long as you were approved properly. That's grandfathered.
What if there wasn't zoning in effect when that said sign was put up?
Well, that sign can stay there permanently, but if you change, you can't change it.
Absolutely, yeah, and if it just changes hands or something, change of use, everything has to be brought
But
up.
if there was no zoning,
I don't know, the way possibly if there was no zoning at the time,
the sign was initially
and the
put up.
sign was put up, or a business was started, technically you could keep it. Unless you've made alterations to that business or to the sign, if you've expanded it, if you've added to it, and so forth and so on.
I think you should be able to.
Then that's no longer grandfathered.
Well, no, what's grandfathered is what was there.
What was there.
I
Yeah,
would,
but...
I would suggest that you could physically keep it up in decent condition to.
Oh, right, yeah, you can
The existing
maintain
sign.
it.
We had that
Painted or
problem, we had that
whatever.
problem at Rivermore when the sign was on the building and they wanted it down. And obviously it was grandfathered and I don't even know if the sign's still there because I never paid any attention. But
Yeah,
it was there for years, years and years.
right.
And then the sign stayed there.
And when did the town hall burn down with a lot of the records? What year was that?
Oh,
Was that
I'm not
84?
sure. That was in the 80s, early 80s, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Burning of the town hall?
Yeah.
87, 88.
Was it?
That's when everything disappeared,
Yeah.
remember? Famous years.
I'm sure that was convenient
Especially
for
if you
some
look out
people.
at Moody's Point.
Right.
Okay, but that's the question I had, is if anyone can interfere with the code enforcement's jurisdiction over ordinances and the enforcement of them.
I think it's his duty to enforce what's on the books,
Right. Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
We only have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.